Why did Toshi lie to us? I need to know. Toshi, if you're listening, the people need to know. Please post it in the comments. Why did you lie? Okay? We're so sick of this, okay? Look at this. Official Dragon Ball Legends Twitter. Haha, no Zenkai for you. Gohan crying. We're going to talk all about this. So, to begin, they tweeted out, and I've brought this up in the past a few times, and today it was on my timeline again. I don't remember exactly who, but it was on my timeline again, and I was like, okay, we got to talk about it one more time. On September 22nd, 2022, 2.5 years ago, basically, they tweeted, man, time flies, by the way. Legends Road, Super Saiyan Gohan, teen, returns. Collect medal exchanges for Super Saiyan Gohan, teen, and power him up, teen again. His max limit break has been raised to 7 red stars. No, this is actually just 7 stars, just in general. Legends Road events are also being updated, so aim for 7-star and prepare for Zenkai Awakening. So, okay, let me say this. This is the one little bone I'll throw them. Loosely read, this could read as them saying, not that he's getting a Zenkai anytime soon, that, you know, whenever they do decide to do it, you know, he'll have him 7-star already because they've updated the event and it should be easier to get him there. I think that's more so what they're implying, but this is also more so also just a commentary on what the hell they did to the Legends Road team and how they just completely gave up. They just completely gave up and said, you know what, we called it a day, we're done. So to give you guys a little bit of context, Legends Road, we're going to take you down the brief history of this tag, the rise and the utter fall of this tag. First and foremost, Goku was the very first one. If you remember when these came out, you would grind their, Z power through. No, was that the Zenkai? Anyways, there was, I believe, the Zenkai. You would get the Z power through co-op, so that was a thing. But anyways, he was on the stage, on the event, stuff like that, and then also you would exchange for the medals. That was basically it. It's a very cookie-cutter style that they still use to this day, although they've changed the way that the events are handled and how they look and all that stuff. But for the most part, the formula was the same as new characters that come out today, where you get the character Z power through exchange or whatever, although now they're again putting it in co-op. It's funny how things come full circle. Anyways, so that was a thing that happened, and they were also Stargated. They couldn't get completely limit broken or things like that. That's also why in this post they say his max limit break potential has been raised to 7-star, because there was a time where these characters would only be able to go, you know, low star, like 3-star, I believe, and then 6-star, and then it would eventually go up as they would bring it back a few times. So that was kind of what was happening with these characters. And over time, as you see, they produced more of them, and we got to a point where they even started duplicating colors. Yeah, it's fun. There's 2 yellows here. That's the only color that, no, 2 greens. A couple colors got a couple of different options for their colors. And, you know, another thing that kind of happened here was along the way, we started getting Zenkais. This Goku got a Zenkai and was a Z tier and was one of the best characters, if not the single best character in the game when he got his Zenkai. Insane Zenkai awakening for this guy. Picking up endurance, having that powerful support. He would hit pretty hard too at that time. Pretty awesome. But there was always this underlying current with this team in that it was a completely free-to-play team, and that meant that they were always going to try to hold it back. So what did they do to hold it back? First and foremost, they heavily staggered multiple things. I talked about how they staggered the limit breaking on the characters. That wasn't always available to get them fully done. If I'm remembering correctly, I'm going back like 3.5 years or whatever. But yeah, that wasn't always the case. You know, they would have, or that wasn't always available to them initially. They also staggered the releases pretty heavily. Like there was a time when there was only 1, then there was only 2. Obviously, as you produce more of them, but they took their time with it, right? And then that was another thing that they kind of did. And then ultimately, another way that they kind of staggered these characters was with Zenkai Awakenings. Only 4 characters on this list got a Zenkai. These 2 Gohans didn't get it, neither did this Goku. I'm actually salty this Goku didn't get it, because he could have been really cool. Just because he's so unique with that instant transmission ability. Like, he could have been super fun, super cool. But these 2 at the bottom did, and Piccolo got it, and then Gotenks might have been. I think Gotenks was the very last one. And Gotenks got his Zenkai probably a couple of years ago. For the record, it was probably a couple of years ago at this point. So they completely left this team by the wayside. And you know the problem is that like I said, this Goku was super powerful. When this Trunks got his Zenkai right before the 2nd anniversary, he was super good. Actually, coincidentally, I used him like sometime in the middle to end of last year, and he actually didn't look all too bad there. Transforming characters, just they stats age so nicely, stuff like that. Anyways, the point is that, like I said, they purposely staggered these releases for these characters and made it to where these characters came out over time to make it to where this team wasn't just the de facto best team in the game. That was the long form way of saying that. They tried their hardest to make this team not the best team in the game, right? And unfortunately, this also coincides with a recent video I did, in that not do we really need Zenkai level 2, but Zenkai characters need balance changes, because all these characters are bad. Every single character on this page is bad. Like I said, I even give some credit to Trunks. I used him recently, and I didn't think he actually surprised me in that video. I'll leave it down below if you want to see him. He surprised me. He performed pretty well. Piccolo has some support stuff that's still okay. Gotenks and Goku or whatever. Goku having endurance, though, will always be okay, I guess. But that's me being kind, right? These characters aren't good. They need balance changes. So really, I kind of think that we're in this really weird position when it comes to these characters, and that not only did they lie, kind of, because, okay, like I said, it's not really so much loose wording. I think that you can interpret this multiple ways, but the way they intend this to be interpreted is, like I said, not that they're going to give him a Zenkai, because if that was the case, there would have been a formal, hey, Gohan, when he gets his Zenkai awakening next week, or stay tuned for his upcoming Zenkai, different verbiage here. This really just reads as it's intended, and that's, hey, we've updated the events, so get him 7-star and prepare for his Zenkai. Prepare is the operative word here, because prepare, again, could be perceived multiple ways. I called them liars because that's the edgy thing to do. But, like I said, I think that they might have had plans to Zenkai him next, because that just makes the most sense. I think that they had plans for that, but they just didn't get around to it. But the problem is, this team, even if they got back to it and gave us a few Zenkais again, this team just still wouldn't be good. And the problem also is that this tag was like the penultimate free-to-play team in the game, stuff like that. But they completely also haven't produced anything else here, right? The game always had other free character releases like Red Vegito or Red Broly and different forms of different content, like another Red Captain Ginyu and Goku's body. Like, this game has always had free-to-play characters released, but they always also had these coming out for a period of time until they didn't. And then, the funny thing, it feels like there was a really long stretch of time where there wasn't really a free-to-play character, and then there was another one, and then they started popping them out a little bit more frequently with like Yellow Rose and Green Pod Frieza and some of these characters, and Green 18, and now we get one basically every other month, probably, maybe actually every month, right? It's something like that. Once every month, once every 2 months we get another one. Most recently was who? Blue Trunks. So that's good, that's solid, but there have been dozens of opportunities, if that's the case, to go back to Legends Road, but they've left it on the wayside. And it's just disappointing how there are so many things in this game, like Legends Road, like Zenkaiing these characters, that can't ever fully reach their max potential, or flat out just get left by the wayside. This is just me talking about one tag in this game. There are dozens of tags in this game that don't get treated properly, that haven't been treated properly, that haven't gotten updated in a long time, like Dragon Ball Saga, for example. There are just so many groups of characters, and that's not all too. What about all the different event types that they've changed that don't exist anymore? Remember those, like I said, those tower style events like that I mentioned a moment ago with like Red Vegito, where you would play through like 50 to 100 stages, stuff like that? They have completely changed this game so many times over. And I also want to give them a little bit of credit, because reinventing yourself is a really big deal when it comes to stuff like this, especially over years of time. It's not really necessarily a bad thing, but I think, to me, there are so many things that they kind of just forget about. They're on their to-do list, and then just keep getting pushed further and further down the list to the point that they just never do them. And I'm pretty sure that that's what happened here, and why they quote-unquote lied to us about further Zenkais, or a Gohan Zenkai specifically, and buffs to Legends Road. So here in 2023, to kind of go back to it, no, this art is so good. This is a really good art for Gohan. So to go back to it here in 2023, the team wouldn't be usable. That's the problem that I have too, is that this team would have been really usable in 2021 or something like that, when they were in a position where they could have done that, but they focused so hard on staggering their releases and then staggering the releases of Zenkais for that team. And also, another thing that they that thumbnail, another thing that they did that was really, really, really dumb and obviously on purpose was so that they could make this team handicapped a little bit, was they did two things. They Zenkai 2 freaking yellows because, yeah, totally, we need 2 yellows in this team. I don't have a problem with there being options, but this team doesn't have any options in the first place. Why are you going to give us 2 yellows, right? The operative team became yellow, yellow, blue, or whatever. And then on top of that, they chose to Zenkai Gotenks, who's probably the worst character on this damn list, just by default. So, like, they went out of their way to do stupid stuff. And then Gotenks' Zenkai was disappointing compared to the prior ones. I think he's still Zenkai 2 because I didn't even bother with him. Also, like I said, they really went out of their way to make people grind for the Zenkais anyway because they tied it to co-op. That wasn't working out great. They revamped it, tried it again. They have done so many things. And in 2023, if we were to try to go back to this team, what would have to happen to this team and for this team for it to be good again is as follows. He needs to be balance changed. It's mandatory. It's mandatory. He's not good anymore, and he's certainly not good enough. You know what's disappointing? This is actually just sad. Look at the list of characters here. Who the hell is the Goku competing with? Seriously, who is he competing with? Maybe Ultra Vegeta? Who is he competing with, right? He's not doing anything to a character on this list at all. And that's just the first 20 characters or so. Let's go down to the next 20 characters. He still ain't doing anything to any of these characters. And he was like their best character, right? So it's a mandatory thing. This guy needs a rework. Mandatory. But again, they're characters that have had Zenkais. So what does that mean? It means that this is not something that's going to happen until they decide to do balance changes for Zenkai characters, which if you watched my prior video, that may not ever happen, and it certainly may not ever happen because the characters that get Zenkai Awakenings, that is their second breath of life. Very rarely will they get a third breath of life unless they're an LF. And they damn sure, if they're an LF, are probably not getting a fourth breath of life. Looking at you like Angry Goku and multiple other characters that have had Zenkais and Equips Awakens or whatever, right? That's also why they stagger the releases of some of that stuff. For example, Murtsumasu got a Plat, didn't get a Zenkai. LF Rose got a Zenkai. SSB Vegeta, Zenkai, Evolution one. No Plat. Right, so like they stagger that stuff because it gives them leeway and wiggle room to produce buffs to those characters down the road. However, in the case of Legends Road specifically, they stagger them to handicap the player base. Because I just want to say this one more time. This team was so accessible, so strong, that if they gave us an actual competent build for this team with 4, 5, 6 of these guys all Zenkai buffing each other at that time, that would have been the only team anybody ran. It would have been what hybrids became. You know what hybrids became when Zenkai Gohan and stuff like that? This would have been like the pre-version of that. Seriously. Because they were all going to buff each other. They also had solid Z abilities for their time. There were the double stat 30% ones. And they're again free characters. This is some premium stuff because at that time this type of Z ability was relegated to high limit breaks on characters like 14 star probably. Unsummonable characters. So like they were going to be insane. They were going to be a threat. So yeah, they handicapped it. The team's dead. Unfortunately, they lied. They didn't lie, but they kind of lied because you could read it that way. But the more pressing thing isn't really whether or not they lied. It's the fact that the team got left by the wayside and they never went back to it again. You know, the funny thing is now that I brought this up, maybe they'll mess around and bring some all the time. I produce a video like this and then they turn around and put something else out like a week later, 2 weeks later. I'm like, y'all, we're always on the same wavelength. So hopefully that's the case here. But I mean, it's been 2.5 years. Like I don't know. All right, guys, let me know what you think. I'll see you in the next one.